Okay, I first want to talk about the meaning of Sankofa. Basically, Sankofa means go back and get it in the Akan language. So you can apply it to anything in your life. Basically, we use Sankofa as a way to go back and capture health. Because in the past, African dance was just not, a bunch of people jumping around dancing in the village. African dance was used as a communication tool. Maybe there was a famine or a war or a problem between two cultures or two neighboring villages or within a community. So the dances were used as a way to offer solutions. So I thought it'd be fitting to create an organization with that in mind, because we actually use the communication tool of Africa's past, which are the African dance dramas, to capture health today, and with our HIV dance dramas. So when you see Sankofa, you'll know a greater meaning of what that means. Okay, so right now we're gonna show you a short video, and the video is going to basically highlight the dance drama, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail on what that means. So let's play the video. Okay, that's a short video of part of what we do. So I'll go into a little bit more detail, but it gives you a better visual of what happens. So I want to first give you some background about the Sanfoka Center. So I started this organization about 12 years ago as a small NGO in Ghana, and that's a non-governmental organization. So basically, I was studying abroad at the University of Ghana, studying traditional African dance because I'm a dancer and an actor. And I was always interested in sexual health as well. So I studied traditional African dance, and it became very clear that the dances were not just a story of how you can move your body and how you can do the aesthetics. It was a story about community. And it's a history about community and how you can enact change in your community through these dance dramas. And so I thought it was, really beautiful. It's a really beautiful art form that inspires so much creativity. While I was on campus, though, I realized that most of the students knew nothing about HIV. There was very little talk about reproductive health. There was very little condom use. People didn't use condoms. And I thought, wow, if this is the cream of the crop, I mean, these are the university students in Africa. So if they don't use condoms and if they're too uncomfortable with talking about sex, but yet they're having a lot of unprotected sex, then what about the rest of the society, which is mostly illiterate, mostly rural people? And I thought, wow, this is something I want to do something about. So I got together with a few dancers, a few students from public health and sociology, and we created these dance dramas. And these dance dramas were stories that we wove into little vignettes that taught people not just about HIV, not just about like the medical part of it, but also the social part of it, like when maybe a girl needs money for school and the guy doesn't want to give her any money but gives her money in exchange for sex, and she's kind of powerless because she needs that money and he wants raw sex, and they do it and she gets infected with the HIV. So these are kind of common scenarios that happen in the daily lives of people in poor countries. It happens here too, but there's a lot more coercion when it comes to sexual situations in developing countries because of the poverty. So we did this one dance drama vignette in a village, and everyone came out of their house and they watched and they understood the story, and they could see themselves in the story. They could see like, oh, I can understand that. I can understand that scenario. And I thought, wow, this is great. They asked a lot of questions about HIV, At the time, we had a lot of different interpreters there that spoke different languages. So it was, done in their own culture and in their own language. So they asked many different questions. And I thought this was really amazing. So I wanted to continue that. So long story short, a few years later, I ended up at UCLA studying in the African Studies department for my master's. And I did a program that was specifically geared towards arts-based HIV projects in public health. And I started a volunteer program, and we've had lots of people come to Ghana to stage our dance dramas. So basically, the dance dramas are sort of twofold. We go to villages and we go to schools. And both of them are basically the same, except in the villages we do HIV testing. So we do dancing and drumming to gather a big crowd, to get people excited, to get them open and ready. And then we weave these little vignettes, these little stories that highlight issues. And then we use picture cards to show them the HIV information, like let's say the fluids or the doors. And then we take questions and we foster a debate on what they just learned. So we've been doing this for about 10 years now with the nonprofit that's based here in America. And we've educated about 50,000 people within the villages that we go to. We've educated about 30,000 students, and we provide free testing for nearly 4,000 people. So, there is power in entertainment. There is power in edutainment and using the arts to reach people. Regarding our volunteer program, we've had over 100 or so volunteers from the US, Canada, the UK. I had some volunteers from the Bahamas and Australia, all students like yourself. And that is what really has been propelling the program all these years. I mean, I'm just the facilitator. And, we have all these students come that have all this passion and all this drive to want to make a difference. And, yesterday, one of the students here told me, well, you can't really change the world. And it's true. You can't really change the world completely, but everyone can have a little piece in that. Everyone can be inspired to do something. And I think it's important for me to, pay honor to the volunteers that have come, because it's been their ongoing legacy that's really made the change in Ghana. So why African dance dramas? I mean, there's so many other forms of education. So why African dance dramas? I first want to ask a rhetorical question. How many in here have seen Miley Cyrus? Actually, by a show of hands, how many people have seen the twerk video that Miley Cyrus does? Can you raise your hand? Twerk, 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 twerk. Have you seen it? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. You've seen it. I think, okay. All right. Okay, now, I don't want you to actually raise your hand because it might be embarrassing. So I want you to think, how many of you in here have tried to imitate that? Oh, I didn't say show. Okay, fine, show your hands. Great, that's really wonderful. I love that, great. I wasn't expecting that, great, okay. So, now, the important thing, the idea that I want to spread is, I wonder, does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? And I pose this example of Miley Cyrus only because, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe there's art forms that are expressed and then people copy them. And so that's what we try to do with our organization. We try to show things that are really happening in life in Africa. We show examples of the problems within relationships through our dance dramas. Like perhaps there's a girl and she's monogamous, so she thinks she's okay. She's completely not at risk for HIV infection. But yet her partner has multiple sex partners with other people without any protection. So that person is still at risk for HIV. Even though she herself might be monogamous, her partner isn't. So these are realistic things that are happening. And we pose this through the dance dramas. And that's a little bit of our art imitating life. But life also imitates art because through our dance dramas, we offer rebuttals. We offer characters that say no to homophobia and no to gender inequality, and that actually promote condom use. So in a way, we're promoting art. We're promoting that life actually imitates art. So there's this interplay that the arts has a very big role in shaping people's perceptions and their reactions to things. And that's what we try to do as an organization. And I think perhaps there aren't too many education modalities that can do that. Just like those people who have been twerking in their rooms by themselves, I don't think if you didn't see Miley Cyrus, you wouldn't do that. So there's a really big pull for the arts to shape perceptions, and we try to do that with our organization. Another reason why we use African dance dramas is because they're very practical. I mean, here in America, we have access to the internet. We have this constant stream of information. We have electricity all the time. We have all these things that make it very easy for us to access information. But in Africa, especially in the rural communities that we live in, there aren't very many opportunities for HIV education. Maybe you don't live in a village where there's a clinic. Maybe you're so busy with your daily life because you're a farmer, or you have to, attend to your crops or something like that. You don't have very much time, or you have very little desire, or you might be ignorant to HIV. So this is a very practical education modality where we drive out into a village, we use our van and we drive out to different villages and we stage this performance, and everyone knows African dance. No matter which village you go to, you do a certain dance, everybody comes out. There's always like the village drunk that comes stumbling in the middle of your performance, and it's really a community affair, but it gets people out of their house. It gets people out of their house, and it gets them engaged. So in a very short time, like you saw in the video, you'll have this impromptu audience of the community members. And that's where the African dance dramas have a big pull. So in a practical sense, this is a very easy way to educate people. And it also highlights some of these social interactions and social causes of HIV infection that a pamphlet or a billboard just can't do. Lastly, most people can't read. So, I mean, if you hand someone a literature with HIV facts on it in Africa, what they're going to do is thank you, because they're going to use that as toilet paper. So, it's very interesting. African dance dramas are, or any form of edutainment, any form of art that gets people to think and to express is the best way to go. Okay, I want to talk about the results on the community that we go to. I think that's important. When I first started this program 10 years ago, most people were very, very shy to even get tested. But now, after they see our performances and they learn about how HIV is transmitted, how HIV is not transmitted, and all these social causes that they might be a victim to, it inspires them to want to get tested. So a lot of people line up after our performances and they get tested right there. We offer rapid 15-minute testing, and I mean, that's the result. I mean, you take a community that might have shunned HIV testing because it's a taboo and it's scary and it's, it's kind of looked down upon. There's a lot of discrimination. But after these performances, they're lining up to get tested. You have young people who formerly thought raw sex was the best thing. And, that's still debatable. But the thing is, seriously, people have raw sex because it feels good. I mean, that's why they have it. So, there's this a problem that we have with honesty. I mean, let's just be honest. However, we have to be smart, and we have to think about the future. You can have some sex that lasts for a few seconds, and you end up with a disease that's going to kill you in 5 years. So, use a condom, right? But the important thing is that people, they ask for condoms. Young people, they want them. And so there's a shift that is happening in Ghana, partly because of what we're doing and partly because of other organizations that have come there to work and that are taking an open-minded approach to HIV education. Okay, now, why edutainment? Okay, you have pure science and you have social science, which is the soft science. Now, I say edutainment, meaning the African dance dramas, is very important because it's very easy to teach the pure science about HIV. HIV lives in body fluids, blood, semen, pre-ejaculative fluid or pre-cum, breast milk, and vaginal fluid. So, HIV lives in those 5 fluids, and when those 5 fluids get into your body, you're able to be infected with the HIV, and it will turn into AIDS eventually in a few years. And left untreated, you can become very sick and die of AIDS. That is the pure science behind HIV, and that's pretty much easy to teach. However, the soft science, which is about human behavior, that is the part that is a little bit harder to deal with. I mean, you have people's feelings and their emotions and their history, and you have their experiences with stigma and discrimination, and you have expectation, and then you have their own biological drives and their needs and wants. So education that is done in an entertaining way through dance dramas can shape all these things and pay some sort of tribute to all these conflicting feelings. And we can offer people a chance to understand these feelings, and that helps them deal with a better plan of action. So I pose that, for the pure science, billboards work. HIV lives in semen. If you see a big billboard that says HIV lives in semen, you'll say, yeah, great, I know, right? But for the soft science, these dance dramas, they get people to talk. They get people to feel. And they get people to communicate, which no other form of education can do. Okay, now there are other implications for HIV education using edutainment. Or in fact, there's just other implications for edutainment. And I want to talk about a few of them. One is an educator's aid. So when I first started this program, most of the people in our group, like most of our volunteers and most of our local African dancers and drummers, they weren't very comfortable with HIV. I mean, just the word HIV/AIDS, they were uncomfortable. When you have to say things like anus or penis or vagina, I mean, everyone would turn red. But over time, the practice of just using the dance dramas as a communication tool made people more comfortable. So perhaps that the dance dramas and edutainment could have a way it could be important as an educator's tool, because they're actually able to teach people better when they've gone through that themselves. So perhaps as an education tool, edutainment can be useful. Another application can be for history studies. When I first came to Ghana, I saw a performance called Kazum Africa, and it was a story of colonialization in West Africa. So vivid and vibrant, and it really made you feel, and it really made you understand the history. So, you just didn't learn the facts, but you actually felt, what people were going through at the time. So perhaps edutainment could be used as a way to teach history. Instead of just reading it in the book, it could be reenacted through different lenses so you can understand people's perspectives a bit better. Okay, for social studies and gender, race, and sexuality, I think this could be a big issue that could be dealt with edutainment. We live in a world like today is supposed to be 2015, and we're all supposed to be this global melting pot, but we're not. I mean, there's all sort of things that are happening where we're divided. We're divided by class, by race, by economic. And, we have to think, why is that? Perhaps edutainment can be a way that can break down some of these walls. Maybe there's some hidden agendas, hidden feelings and things that we really don't deal with as a culture, as one. So maybe edutainment could be a way that we break down these walls. Counseling and therapeutic fields could really benefit from edutainment. You know, I was driving along the highway, the 101, and I saw this big billboard, and it said pain is often invisible. And as you know, pain is invisible. We all live in a culture where we have to put on a smiley face. You're on Facebook saying all the happy feelings all the time, like this is great. You always post good pictures, right? But the problem is a lot of us have a lot of pain that we don't know how to deal with. You know, and it leads people to suicide, it leads people to depression and all sorts of mental problems and distress. So edutainment could probably be a education tool that could be used in therapy to help people deal with those hidden feelings and to learn how they can heal themselves. Lastly, technology. Technology could be a great way that we can use edutainment. I mean, you guys have grown up with Facebook, the internet, email. I didn't get my first email till I was 18. So, I mean, you guys probably were 4 or 5 when you had your first email address or something. So, technology could be a great way that you can use a viral sense of educating people using entertainment. So I want you to take that in consideration. Okay, lastly, I want to conclude saying that arts is a way that we can reflect, express, and engage while communicating. And I don't know if many of you have considered a career or a occupation that might include using the arts, but it's a great way for you to foster communication and connect with people. So in the future, I hope when you are looking for different things to do, you can consider an art-based approach to what you do.